Welcome, everyone, to the Next Best Picture podcast, where we are talking with Judy Greer and Alexander Skarsgård, the stars of the new film Eric LaRue. Judy, Alexander, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Very excited to talk. Of course, very excited to talk to you both about this film, which has such a fascinating, tricky tonal quality to it with some very uncomfortable dark humor that I particularly enjoyed. But I'm curious for the both of you if that tone was immediately clear when you read the script, or was it something that you found while working on it with each other and your director, Michael Shannon?
I never understand tone. I know I should, but I always sort of rely on my directors to make sure I'm making the same movie as everyone else. Um, and there was some comedy in this movie that surprised me, and I never understand it, but I think it's because not that I don't understand it in this movie. I just mean in general, sometimes like it's hard when you go in to a story like through the eyes of one character. It's like really hard to see it. Like I see it as Janice and I'm like, how could they be making a joke right here? But then when you watch the movie, the finished product, and you see like what a pressure cooker it is and how you need to like let go for a second. But yeah, I mean, I think Michael Shannon's a he's such a great he's such a smart human, and he's such a moviegoer, and I mean, besides his acting, he loves film and he loves telling stories. And I just trusted him. So in those moments, I knew he knew what he was doing.
And Alexander, same for you.
Kind of second what Judy said. I didn't think too much about the tone. I I knew Michael. We worked together years ago, and he's a dear friend. So I was beyond excited when he reached out, and not only excited but honored that for his directorial debut that he wanted me to come play, and it was a very easy decision to jump in, and I just trusted him completely, and 100% agree with Judy. I felt that I just throw myself into the scenes, into the moments with the other actors, and then we'll see what happens. And then we can calibrate it and figure if we find that, and by we, I mostly mean Michael behind the camera, behind the monitor, could be like, well, now we're leaning a bit too far into the comedic element, or we're getting a bit too melodramatic here. And he'll come up and whisper something and we pull it back, or we try something else. And, but it was quite liberating to not worry too much about the tone, but just kind of try to stay true to what was happening in the moment, in the scenes with all the other actors.
And how would you describe Michael Shannon's style as a director? What was the sort of vibe that he conducted on set?
Sensual.
Sensual? How so?
Yeah. No, he's just a very sensual guy. So how could he not be? No, it's he. Obviously, Michael is an incredible actor, and but that doesn't necessarily translate into being a great director. But I felt so safe, protected creatively by Michael, and I felt that he loved and understood Ron even better than I did, and the complexities of the character. And when you feel that support by your director, it's just a wonderful feeling, because it makes you take bigger swings and try different things, and because you know that he's so insightful and clear on the character and the relationships, and but also Michael's very curious to see. It's not dogmatic at all. It's not like show up and do, like, he has a clear idea of how it has to be done. He has a clear starting point, an idea of a starting point, but then it's fun when you work with someone who wants to be surprised the way I enjoy being surprised on set. Like, oh shit, I didn't expect this thing to take this turn or go in this direction. And it was creatively exciting that he would jump in with us and feel that, and then come up and go, well, that took a different turn than I expected, but I really enjoy that. Push it even further, or try this, or change that line to this, and say this to Judy instead, and see what kind of reaction you get out of her. So it was very liberating and very fun.
Yeah, it kept us on our toes because he gave our direction to us like very like he would whisper in our ears or take us away for a second and then we would come back, and you definitely had to listen because like things changed like subtly, and it made it really fun. It felt like acting class in the best possible way sometimes.
That's really great to hear. And was all this done on set, or did you have any sort of rehearsal time beforehand to try things out? It was all on set?
Yeah, there wasn't much time for anything other than shooting the movie, and one kind of weird like a phenomenon that you don't often have in a low budget independent movie is like this feeling of time, and somehow it felt like we had all the time in the world for every single angle and every single scene. And I think that's something I heard Mike say, that he's always feeling so pressured when he's acting in movies, and he like did not want that to happen on his set, and he achieved that. Like I never felt rushed, and I never felt like, are we going to make our day? um, and so it makes you just so much more able to explore different things.
That's really wonderful to hear. I, this film is in part at least about how people process grief differently. And so I wanted to ask much of yourself did you see in how your characters processed grief?
Oh. Hmm. Well, I have thankfully not experienced anything at this level.
Mm,
I've been near it, but never in it. I've been sort of like on the like outside two circles of it.
mm,
Um, so I don't know. I don't know how I would. And I think I found Janice to be very brave. I mean, she certainly seems like someone who's probably an introvert. Um, so to be able to like reach out and try to find comfort and help, within a church environment, which I think is how a lot of people do it. I think it's really brave. I think she doesn't want to feel the way that she's feeling anymore. And and that I think takes courage, especially considering sort of her role in what happened.
yeah, yeah. And Alec, yeah, go right ahead.
Well, there's also a complexity to the grief because it's quite often, if you're going through grief, if you're lucky enough to have friends, family, you have community around you to support you. But when you're the parents of the shooter, that compassion doesn't extend to you necessarily from the community or from people around around you. Quite the opposite. They kind of shun you or shy away from you, and so it's you're grieving, but you're also kind of alienated from everyone. So for me, it was, I could definitely understand how Ron would, when you're in that bottomless pit and you're completely consumed by grief, but also guilt. I can imagine what is my responsibility as a father, and where did I go wrong in raising this kid? I can see the appeal when you have someone say, well, here's an answer for you. You're not guilty. Your son's not guilty. This is part of God's greater plan. So it's like an oversimplification of religion that's just very palatable because it avoids the complexity of the situation. You don't have to deal with whether or not you're guilty or your son is guilty. It's all part of a greater plan, and you just kind of have to jump in and believe in that. So I actually didn't find it that hard to imagine being in Ron's shoes and going through that. And then a lot of my motivation was just to kind of convince Janice that, well, it's so easy. You're walking around carrying this heavy burden on your shoulders, but just like, this is God's will. There was a purpose to what happened. So just believe in it. So it was, I could see the appeal for sure.
Yeah, it feels like that's the other sort of big theme of this film is how and why people turn to religion in times of trouble, right? You know, Judy being this character, that's sort of in between these two poles of these very different types of churches. Did you feel any particular connection to the sort of spiritual journey that Janice was going on as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I get it. I want that. I want I do want to I want an easy out. I am like
So
so
we
je-
all.
I
Yeah.
just am so jealous of people who can be like, well, that's what God wants. So, like, I'm like, really? That's it? You can just do that? I want that.
Yeah.
My brain does not work that way. I do feel, and especially like as I'm aging and my parents are aging and my friends are aging and my kids are aging, I'm like, oh my God, we're all gonna die. What happens then? So of course, I think I'm in like a part of my life where I'm like, I would love to be on a spiritual journey, and I think like one thing that I forget is how like here in Los Angeles where I live and I have for 25 years, like everyone, we all kind of talk a lot about our feelings, and I'm an actor, so we talk a lot about our feelings, and we love to hear ourselves talk about our feelings, and we all go to therapy and we have gurus and yada yada. But like self-help, like the OG self-help is the church. Like the OG, like emotional wellness is church, is your pastor, your priest, your rabbi. Like that is where most people find their therapist and their comfort. Um and like that is something that again, I said I'm like jealous of, but I can relate to that desire for comfort and that journey. And what I think is so beautiful about this story, even though I don't always agree with the messaging, is that people are looking. I mean, I think like while I feel like Ron is oversimplifying the situation, like again, I think I also feel jealous of that it can be, I don't know if it really sinks into his bones, but maybe in time it will. I think Janice is looking too, and that she can go and she can like stand next to these women and try to like do the scariest, most awful thing she could probably ever imagine, which is have a conversation with them and try to find healing. Um, I think that's so commendable. But yes, I do think that like we are a society, like it's like we're so polarized, and there is like it's like all church or no church, and there seems to be like not a lot of space in religion for like the searchers and the like people who are just curious.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. I know we're coming up on the end of our time together, but before we go, I wanted to talk about this one specific scene because it turned stood out to me in the film. It's this confrontation between the two of you where Ron tries to take a stand and force Janice to attend the meeting at his church instead of hers. And it's sort of like this immovable object versus unstoppable force. And Judy, you just push past him with your shoulder, and it's so forceful the way you just push him out of the way. I had to ask, how, especially, you know, in light of what you were talking about, how Michael worked on set, how many times did you shoot that moment, and how sore were your guys' shoulders afterwards? Judy, did you need one of Alexander's neck massages? Like,
Nobody should turn down a neck massage from Alexander Skarsgård, just FYI. If he's offering, you better fucking say yes. I
With
remember
silky soft fingers.
soft hands. I just thought it was funny because we have this scene and then there was like the hanger, and of course, like I don't do this kind of thing, and you do. So like I'm never the one, like I don't do fight scenes and stuff, and like I think you'd come out anyway. It was just funny that I felt like I was the one that had to like be careful and not hurt you. I don't remember.
I was intimidated. I was intimidated.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm pretty tough. No, I don't remember being sore or anything, but I do remember that moment. Like that scene is such a pivotal moment, and then the scene obviously with Janice and her son, but that scene between the two of them is where it's like all kind of leading up to for their relationship. And it was something that I felt like we nailed it pretty quickly, didn't you? Like it didn't seem like we shot that forever.
No, and we didn't shoot it completely in order, our scenes, but I think that was towards the end of it. So we had already shot established our relationship and knew where we were going. And I think the desperation from Ron was building over those scenes. We already kind of had that in the can, and it was just like about trying to get through to Janice and the frustration of like, I can save her, but she refuses. I just got to kind of physically get her into the car and take her to church, and then all will be well. So hold on to that conviction. But then obviously when Janice fights back, not physically, but there's that moment of standoff, Ron is slightly intimidated. Yeah, there's not much he can do in that moment. Yeah,
it's a very memorable moment, and a moment in a film full of memorable moments from the both of your performances. They're really fantastic. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today, and thank you so much for your work in the film.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks, Daniel.
Of course.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.